Доброе утро.
Good morning.
Очень интересно присутствовать в
Very
пустом зале.
interesting to be in such an empty hall.
Первой самоизоляции смотрел
During the first
концертов.
lockdown period, I looked at the rock stars concerts, and they were very surprised to see no people around them. This is the same feeling I have right now. I try to remember the beginning of the year. It seemed that the last year witnessed everything which could be possible, and the beginning of the year was more or less sustainable. And then I saw the flash crash of ruble, and they asked me what was happening, and I answered them that China was experiencing outbreak of the coronavirus, and the reaction was, "Come on, how can you compare China and ruble? What was the connection?" And then everything happened in our country. I'd like to start our interview on this stage, this first keynote interview for our today's summit, with a question to Igor. So what was the major challenge to Moscow's stock exchange this year? How did you face the coronavirus crisis? When was the moment when we understood that everything was not going to happen the way it was before? Good morning, dear colleagues. Good morning, Andrey. Thank you for the question about the coronavirus. What has made this year unique and what is having greater impact on today's even conference? As a matter of fact, being a stock exchange, we started to take some measures relating to coronavirus in February. In March, we switched very fast to remote work, and with minimum changes, about 10% of our staff stayed in our office, responsible for continuity and operability of our business, and our front office colleagues are mostly working remotely or totally remotely. This was probably the major challenge, this rapid shift to remote work, not for our stock exchange, but for the whole industry. And the second challenge was the flash volatility. The volatility was not a surprise to us at all, but this massive shift, very drastic shift to remote work was of unique nature for us. I believe that there were several tasks to be fulfilled. The first task was to maintain the health of our staff. It was a top priority for our company. That's what we were doing in terms of the remote work arrangement, testing procedures, transportation, all those measures against the coronavirus development that was undertaken. And the second very important issue, where a key structure of the financial market, therefore the continuity of business and the lack of failures within this flash volatility, was a great challenge for us as well. From my perspective, being a stock exchange and our financial markets responded to the crisis in a good manner, since we were quite ready in terms of technologies, in terms of the business process in place. We can see that even though there was a double strike compared with previous crises in 2008, 2014, we can say that the period of volatility and turbulence was smoother for the market. We can see that there were no huge issues connected with the market. We didn't see any huge defaults or similar systematic problems. Overall, we can see that it all can be characterized as additional boost, an impetus to the financial market development rather than huge problems in place. This surge in the development might concern the volume. Whenever you see the volatility, there is volume in place. compared with the beginning of the year. In peak periods, there was doubled volume in volatility, so double volume of transactions. And we can see that the major markets even have witnessed a bigger surge. The crisis of the years has changed many plans. Have you changed your plans? Have you adopted any solutions which were supposed to be adopted a little bit later? Has the crisis accelerated the process which you undertake? We've tried to assist our clients to shift to remote work mode. That concerned even the client technical support. Apart from that, within several months, we provided free of charge access tools to our clients. As for the things we had to change, we discussed whether it was reasonable to respond to the time limit we have on spot markets and on stock exchange markets. We have very long hours of work, and we discussed together with the regulator, with the participants, whether it was reasonable to change and to lower the time limits. That was the response of many exchanges. We decided not to do that, as all the operational processes were quite well tuned. And so it was not reasonable to change that at all, because it would imply additional risks. As for the plans, which are quite ambitious, we didn't cancel anything. We just rescheduled some things. Evening session on the stock exchange, which is quite significant change to the business process and this big segment of ours, decided to launch on June 22, unlike our initial plan, which was to happen a couple of months before. And at the end of the day, we decided to shift this evening session a bit, and at the end of June, everybody was ready, and we saw that after the launch, the volumes are going up. We have about 6% of all the volumes accounting for evening session on stock market. This is the example of how we responded. Out of other big projects which we decided to accelerate a little bit was the launch of foreign stocks trading at the end of August, and I can say that all the plans for this year have been fulfilled or are to be fulfilled this year, even though all the current challenges are in place. Nevertheless, I'd like to ask you about the list of so-called black swans. Do you have possible triggers of volatility which you can price in, or which can change your plans for the foreseeable future? Can you believe that the election of the president of the US might trigger a new volatility round on the forex or stock exchange? Yeah, this year we have witnessed high volatility several times. We've discussed the coronavirus flash. The major drivers of volatility or triggers of volatility can be called the so-called waves of coronavirus, the first wave, then the anticipation of the second wave, and our experience of the second wave, which is happening right now. And the election has always been on the radar. The September flash of volatility can be explained by the forthcoming election of the president of the US, the sanctions issue. The severe approach to that is still on the horizon, and these are the major triggers which we've been witnessing all the year round, actually. And we are to do that in the future. Can you expect a little bit calmer months within the year? We hope not. This is not going to be the case.
Расскажите, пожалуйста, как вот в
Can you
связи с
talk a couple
этой
words
волатильностью мы знаем, что
about the following thing? You know that due to this volatility, you have
увеличилось
more
количество
clients
частных
of
лиц,
Moscow Stock Exchange.
число, скажем,
You see more individual clients. Also, what is the forecast figure for the year to come? Maybe the people
очереди в обменнике.
will try to hedge their risks on stock exchange rather than exchange at the bank's offices. This is the second year I'm going to answer this question. As a matter of fact, this is not correlated to volatility itself.
There are a couple of drivers here of people coming to our market, the lower interest rates and I would say proactive engagement of our clients on behalf of our large retail banks. And these policies indeed ensured some boom in the growth of our clients. We noted 5 million. We thought it was a fantastic number compared to what we had only a few years back, only a couple of millions there. And we said that, okay, it's 1% of the population, 2% of the economically active population. So we were thinking what would be awaiting us looking forward compared to the emerging markets and the developed markets. Now the growth rates are quite high. We are already reaching the 7 million mark. And even this year, we were talking about 7 million mark as something for next year, but we already reached this this year. Hard to say what is going to be in future. We have received 600,000 clients during 1 month of September, slightly over 600,000. So if you take the classic activity that traders and banks are engaged in trying to capture the clients, I think probably we will have a stronger growth in future. Maybe even 10 million mark is not far away from us. Clients are, of course, varying, but they are different in principle from those whom we used to catch in our markets. If you take stocks and derivatives, private individuals were quite active, but those were mostly like professional retail clients. Today, we receive a less informed and less professional audience of clients who want to invest into the financial tools, especially bonds and stocks, but also FX. For FX, brokers provide access to everyone, so we can say that we have 7 million clients, but active clients increased fivefold and reached 500,000 people. For stocks, I think in September we had something like 1 million clients. So, of course, this has some influence on the shares. We grew from 7% to 13% in the FX market, and the retail clients are those who really determine what is going on in the financial market. They stabilize the market, especially the stock market, on the one hand. On the other hand, we're talking about a quality-based growth of our financial market, where the regulators and ourselves have worked trying to help our clients to get some profit. Going back a little bit and talk about the hypothetical trigger that would cause a negative reaction of the population for people to go out and buy FX. Do you think this growing number of the clientele might push some fluctuations in the exchange rate of the ruble? And are they in a situation when MOEX would really stop trading? Something that sometimes happens in the stock market. So can this happen in the FX market? Regarding the number of private individuals in the FX market, we already saw quite a growth there. And I don't think that really FX is something that they need. They probably need FX-based instruments, and we'll really have a trend of this year. This is already really reasoned and caused by the interest rates there. Quite popular are foreign stocks and FX-denominated bonds. And of course, this causes some additional demand for conversion transactions on behalf of on the part of the clients. But this is not something in the market which is very significant for the ruble to appreciate or depreciate. That's one thing. But the other thing is that when you are talking about a stop of trades, we don't have really such suspensions. After the crisis, we managed to change the paradigm with the regulator. We need to have the markets open and to continue operations. So when we have some sharp fluctuations either in the index or all these stocks, we change the mode of trading. Instead of the continuous trading, we use discrete trading, which would help to stabilize the price. In the FX market, the situation is even more simple. If you take the volatility of the end of 2013, we were discussing back then how the infrastructure should react to such sharp fluctuations, and we all agreed, including the regulator, that the market should remain open and the market should continue to operate. So we do not have any triggers when we more or less stop the trading there. And the FX market is really a central bank-driven market. We also have a discrete mechanism in place for the market, but this works on the decision of the regulator, the central bank. Now, talking about the FX market, which first was an OTC market, and now you have a growing share of that market. How these two markets more or less look like in terms of percentages, and what do you think about the FX Russian trading and OTC markets, how they would compare next year? Our share, I don't think that it is growing. Well, it is actually was dropping in the past couple of years. Last year it was around 40%, slightly below 40% for our main instrument of spots. This year, of course, because of the growing volatility, the share of the exchange grew to 55%. But if you take the USD ruble spots, it is around 60+%, which is a good share. And we try to use our technologies and services, new instruments which we offer to clients. All kinds of fixings that we launched recently, and our legs with the Spirit Bank, etc., and other services. So we hope that our share would remain to around from between 40 and 50%. Now, talking about strategy, our strategy is not only about growing our share purely and bring all our FX to the exchange. We want all our services, and we are a vertically integrated group. In addition to our trading platform, we have a central counter agent, counterparty, a clearing institution, and we think that the FX market is characterized by a fragmented nature in terms of its liquidity. And this is the nature of the market. And we rather want this market, in addition to have a liquidity pool, also to preserve the center of pricing, or rather rate setting in the exchange. And in terms of our different services, post-trading and counterparty clearances and settlements, so we want also to serve the OTC transactions. This is our strategy, which we adopted in 2019 for 5 years until 2024, and this is the destination that we are moving into. And these are also plans for our next year. That's what I wanted to ask you, Igor. What are the plans of the exchange for next year? Since you started to discuss services for the OTC market, can you share more details about that? And also, When are you going to start the early FX trading? So since 7 a.m. We hope that we will launch that in Q1 of next year. So everybody is, waiting for the early trading, for the early trades, and this is something that we are also looking forward to. And we actively discuss this with the marketplace, how to do it better. And what do we expect from those early trades, and why this idea at all originated? There are two reasons for that. First, we have a large country, and a lot of its territory and population is to the east of Moscow. And also, these are the retail clients who more or less actually set the mood in the conversion transaction market. So FX market is also important to that. And also we see quite an interest in different transactions with the Russian instruments from the clients in Asia, Singapore, Hong Kong, India, to some extent China. We have some projects with China as well. So all of this is setting some grounds for those early trades. Now, if you take the FX markets, which more or less would be started early at 7 a.m., but this is a market which can be a 24/7 market. That's something to try to seek, but we have big markets and many brokers who serve those millions of clients. We really move cautiously there. The stock market is not launching yet, but it's a more complex market in terms of the technologies, but probably we would come back to the idea of early trades in stocks as well next year. In terms of OTC, in July, we mentioned that we bought a 17% stake in a leading FX market platform, OTP Pro, and we would bring that share to the stake to 100% within a couple of years, within several years there. We also think that this would help us to apply in the OTC market and also represent our clearing and present our clearing to the OTC clients, and both counterparty-based and outside counterparty-based. Igor, thank you very much for your quite detailed answer. I think we touched upon many diverse subjects. Those will be discussed during today, and perhaps we can also write something about that in terms of our